Hey, Sotenico here once again in the ivory towers of Godlovescomics, a subsidiary of the Comics Interpreter and of Abscess Press. And once again, I just had an unboxing last night and uploaded the video, and I have yet another one. They're rolling in, and then we'll see if I can hold true to my supposed moratorium on comics purchasing. Not that I purchased very many, but, you know, 2 boxes in 2 days, pretty unusual for me, so, but it does make for fun videos. And the last video was primarily Silver and Bronze Age Amazing Spider-Mans. I think actually there were 8 issues ultimately for about $60. This box has a little bit of a mix of things, which I think will be very interesting and cost me about $30. So let's just cut right into it and get into it. Pretty excited to see what's in this box. I mean, I have a vague memory since I just ordered it, but I don't remember specific issues, and I think there's probably something in there that I don't recall. And this is infinitely better packaged. Strangely enough, it came with this little holder here. Well, that's a box, but he actually has, if you can see right there, Incredible Hulk 114 to 298, annual 16 to 18 written. So it looks like he's cut these. This is pretty nice. He's cut these priority mail USPS boxes so that they actually are magazine and comics holders. So I might use that. It's pretty funny. The comics are not in that, though. That was just used as a little block. And this is packaged so much better than the previous package. As you can maybe see, it's always a little bit too close, but as you can see, he's it's in a, first of all, it's in a box. That's great. And then he's got this cardboard. He had that thing that I've already pulled out, and then he's got another cardboard box. Then he's got it in another USPS bubble wrap package, and then he's got another just random bubble wrap package on the bottom, plus he's put some more cardboard. So really incredible packaging. Tremendous credit to this guy, whose name escapes me. Let's see, Dennis Emerson. And again, another person wheeling and dealing on one of the collectibles groups on Facebook. Pretty addictive. So this is really well packaged, and these comics are arguably not as valuable as the Spider-Mans I ordered that were just kind of slapped into an envelope. But so I'll definitely have to compliment him on how much effort he put into packaging. Almost an embarrassing amount. Okay, so pretty excited about this. Got a pretty nice stack of comics right there. And let's see what the first one is. Okay, oh, nice. Amazing Spider-Man 151, one of the iconic sort of covers from the Bronze Age, one of the best covers. Sort of emulates the classic Ditko cover where Spider-Man was under all of the machinery and trying to lift up, you know, as he looked like he was on the verge of drowning. And Jaime Hernandez pointed that out. I think it's, I tend to think it's somewhere in the 30s, maybe 35, but I'm not sure. Maybe not that late, maybe 13. Yeah, I have such a bad memory for issue numbers, but this is a Bronze Age, and I actually realized I had purchased this and was thinking that it belonged in the Amazing Spider-Man lot that I had ordered before, and so I had to check it up, and then I saw, no, that it wasn't in that, and then I realized, oh, I must have ordered it in this lot, and sure enough, I did. I don't remember what the grade is, but it doesn't look like it's in the best of shape. It's got a lot of stress along the corners, but we may crack that open and take a look at it. And here we go, really nice Fantastic Four 142, and that is a Rich Buckler and Joe Sinnott cover. Really like the cover. Really like this era of Fantastic Four. A little bit disappointed in the condition. Got a pretty major, well, not a major, but I mean, you've got a bend there. You've got a little bend and a little tear there, all along this right edge. And a little scribble mark there. And then after that, it's perfectly fine. So again, take a look at that maybe in a minute. And Fantastic Four 164. And I think this is interesting because this is, I believe, the first George Perez pencils on the Fantastic Four. Now, I believe Perez, I don't know, I think his first work at Marvel was on, I want to say The White Tiger or something. I saw an interview with him a long time ago in Comics Scene. Yeah, but I'm not sure if that was in a Spider-Man issue. I think he may have even worked on the Avengers a little bit before Fantastic Four. I'm not sure, because he worked on the Avengers around the 140s. And then he had a fantastic run on Fantastic Four a little bit later. But, yeah, so this is, I believe, his first pencils on Fantastic Four. And I'm not even sure if that's his cover. I really should look some of this stuff up, so I can give it a little bit more context. Should be fun, but my keyboard is blocked out by this backing, so I guess I'll just wing it. And that's Fantastic Four 165. I wanted to keep, follow up 164 with 165, which is in apparently much better shape. Also has a really nice cover. I believe it also has George Perez art. And, yeah, I like it. And then there's Fantastic Four 171. Love the cover. Gore. Golden Gorilla. And I believe that's also Perez art as well. But he's not just another giant gorilla story. You'll gasp at the startling secret of Gore. I have no idea what the secret of Gore is. Okay. This is Submariner 61, and this has a very interesting story which compelled me to purchase it. I bought an older Submariner recently in a prior batch. I believe, I'm sure I did a video on it. And it had Bill Everett art. And Bill Everett was the creator of the Submariner. And always sort of inextricably tied in my mind to Carl Burgos, who was the creator of the Human Torch. Frequently, they were around the same period. You always saw Timely Comics back in World War II era, in the 1940s, where Submariner and, of course, Captain America, but also Human Torch were often fighting the Nazis, and and so these guys were similar era, similar creations in terms of Submariner, in terms of the Human Torch, which were major comics creations back in the 40s, but sort of faded, sort of became peripheral characters. I mean, obviously, the Human Torch became a star eventually in the Fantastic Four, but never massive characters that were going to carry their own comics too often. I mean, obviously, this is issue number 61, so I mean, it did have a pretty good run, and or carry their own movies typically. But this is particularly interesting because this is Bill Everett, and the issue that I had before, he had done the entire issue. I really liked the artwork. I was pretty surprised that his artwork had evolved. I mean, you remember somewhat sort of primitive artwork of Timely in the 40s, and I was really surprised how great his artwork looked in that issue. And but I was aware that a year after that issue was completed, he had passed away. Well, come to think of it, this was his last issue. This was the last comic that Bill Everett worked on. Let's take a look at it. And not only did he not finish it, he only finished the first 3 pages. And after that, I think it was Mort Meskin who took over the art. I guess we shall see. But, oh, I'm sorry. Win Mortimer. Win Mortimer. But if that is Bill Everett's first page, it's really beautiful. One of his first page in this issue and one of the last in his life. And really, really beautiful page. If he drew this, he may have drawn, I would assume he drew it in sequence, so that certainly looks like his work, and the inking certainly looks like his work. Really nice. So, that would be page 2, and this would be page 3, and quite believably, or likely, this is the last work that Bill Everett did, certainly on the Submariner, and for Marvel, I'm pretty sure it's the last work he did, period. And it's really beautiful work, really unfortunate that he passed away a little bit too soon. I think he was in his 60s. Certainly there's a history of a lot of great comics artists, like Don Newton, Marshall Rogers, Gene Day, passing away in their 30s and 40s, Wally Wood committing suicide, I think, in his 50s. So, but, so we have Bill Everett. This is a script by Steve Gerber, by the way, which is also really nice. And then we have Win Mortimer and Jim Mooney. And first 2 pages, if they're by Everett, are really nice, but then the continuity on page 4, if this is by Mortimer and Mooney, is actually really good. Okay, it seems like you can see a change in style. This still looks like Everett to me, but I believe he only did the first 3 pages, but that still looks like Everett, and it looks like his Namor or Nita, whatever her name was. But then this does look like a different style. So this is definitely when Mortimer sort of took over. And I'll be very interested to see if there's any mention of Bill Everett's passing in this book, or maybe it came out before they were able to, I don't know, mention it. But here's a very strange, this is going to be really interesting, okay? Take a look at the rest of the book. And I would say, without a doubt, from my perspective, the first pages that Everett did were the best pages in this book, so that's somewhat fitting. He didn't look like his skills had declined at all. In fact, he had only was getting better. But this is very interesting at the back. First of all, there's the Friends of Old Marvel, FOOM, fan club. Very famous fan club. And actually, if you have some of these FOOM magazines, which I doubt you do, I believe they're fairly valuable now. At least they have some collectible value. And then on the Send It to Subby letter column, right off the bat, I see a letter to Roy Thomas, who was the editor, and it says, "Dear Roy, I've just learned that Bill Everett will be terminating his association with Submariner due to deadline problems. Is there some other solution? How many pages a month can he turn out? I would gladly pay 20 cents for 10 pages of Everett and 10 pages of reprint. Or how about using the same approach you use for Hero for Hire, where with Everett penciling every month and inking on those months he does not pencil? If neither of these approaches will suffice, then there surely must be some workable solution other than having him cease subby output altogether." From Will Hamblett in Santa Monica, California. So this is also very interesting. This is a letter about Everett leaving Submariner because he can't make deadlines. And there is a great sort of illumination of what happened with Carl Burgos and with Bill Everett. Burgos was very distraught by Marvel's sort of appropriation of the Human Torch, and Bill Everett was not so much, there was not really that much word of him being terribly upset about Submariner being used by Marvel, but rather Bill Everett had another job, a real job, and it made it extremely hard for him to make deadlines. I mean, can you imagine drawing drawing a comic, as labor and intensive as that is, and also holding down a full-time job. So Stan Lee kept having to fire him or threaten to fire him or whatever. And so this sounds like that case where Bill Everett wasn't making deadlines and they were going to take him off his book, the character that he created. And sadly and very ironically, he died. And but this is a really nice letter from a fan who really desperately wanted Everett to stay on the book. Now let's read Roy Thomas's response, if we can. Will, we toyed with almost every approach conceivable, even to making Submariner a bi-monthly book so that Bill could pencil, ink, and write the whole mag. You see, Marvelites, everybody here at the bullpen, Stan, Roy, Steve Gerber, who's been writing the series of late, everybody digs Bill's version of Namor. After all the thinking, all the mind-boggling convolutions of production, all the new and old ideas that have been shaken and sifted through 100 times, we finally hit on the perfect solution. And that's when fate stepped in. Okay, here we go. As you've no doubt noticed from the first 3 pages of this issue, Everett was back, and better than ever. Yeah, I thought so too. And then, with only those 3 pages completed, the Wild One took ill. And sad to say, it's the kind of illness that's going to keep him off Submariner or any mag for a month or 2 to come. As of this writing, we have not yet chosen an artist to continue in Bill's absence. So next issue is going to be a surprise to everybody, including even us. What we can tell you about next month's Submariner, however, is the part of that aforementioned perfect solution that will be coming true. Our intention was to have Bill do a complete 14-page Submariner feature every month and devote the rest of the book not to reprints, but rather to a brand new feature called Tales of Atlantis. You will see the first chapter of this stunning new series next issue, penciled and plotted by Howie Chaykin and scripted by Steve Gerber. And frankly, we think it's going to knock you off your guard. And of course, you'll also see the finish of Subby's battle with Dr. Hydra, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, needless to say, we wish Bill the speediest of recoveries, and just as soon as he's able and willing, he will return to the pages of Submariner. Shucks, knowing Bill, it'd be a miracle if we could keep him away. That's the story, people. Straight from the shoulder. Now you'll just have to bear with us. We think you'll find there's still mucho excitement and many, many surprises in store. So, that's Roy Thomas. And there you go. Bill Everett finished the first 3 pages of this issue, some of his best work ever, and he was sick. And they anticipated it was serious enough that he was going to miss a month or 2, which doesn't sound like very long at all. And of course, he passed away from the result of whatever illness it was. And that was it. So, really, really interesting. But supposedly, there were threats that he was going to be fired. And then, according to Roy Thomas, they were going to keep him on the magazine, and then they were also going to fill in the rest of the magazine, or the rest of the comic, I should say, with Tales of Atlantis by Howie Chaykin and Steve Gerber. So that is really interesting, and I don't remember how much I paid for this issue. Probably maybe about $5, maybe $4, but totally worth it. Really interesting backstory. And presumably that's a Bill Everett cover too, but very sad to see. This is one of the really fine artists from the Golden Age, carried over into the Bronze Age, 1973, and that was his last work, this issue. So has a really interesting historical context, as well as being some really nice work from Bill Everett. Empty? Oh, that's from previous. And let's see what's next. Thor 220. And that is Gil Kane. I love this cover. I mean, just a really fantastic cover, if you can see. Very close up. Sort of classic Gil Kane. And someone was talking about a Gil Kane interview, I believe in Alter Ego, and I remembered primarily the one that was in the Comics Journal, which sometimes is a dirty word. Can't say the Comics Journal in mixed company around mainstream comics fans. But that was the one that I remembered. And I actually found my copy. I wasn't even looking for it. It was just already on my bookshelf, pretty easily found. And so maybe I'll just take a look at that and read a short excerpt from that when I finish this. Anyway, that's a really great cover from Gil Kane for Thor 220. And I would assume the art inside is from John Buscema. We can take a look at that in a minute. And this is another fantastic Gil Kane cover. Really fantastic. First of all, I really love Hercules in Thor's comics. Always really, his appearances were always fantastic back in the Kirby and Lee era, and then even John Buscema's era, and Ares. There was a really great Thor annual where Ares was fighting Hercules and Thor. It was really terrific. So, and this is a really great cover from Gil Kane. He was at his peak, I believe. And apparently, he only came to Marvel because he was being kind of abused or beaten up by Carmine Infantino, who was the art director over at, or was it Carmine Infantino? Carmine followed up, I think it was. Julius Schwartz, of course, was also a major editor there, but I believe that Gil Kane said that it was Carmine. There is an issue here, though. It almost looks like a hole punch, or I can't tell. There's a lump, little bump right there. Strange. Otherwise, that cover, aside from the cover looking great, the issue is not bad at all. It's probably fine. Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's fine. Probably about 6. Except for this, I'm not sure. Okay, another great cover. This is Kirby. So, can't go wrong there. Jack Kirby doing Galactus and Thor. I mean, almost perfection. Really fantastic cover. 226. They're up to 25 cents by now. This was 222. They were still at 20. So this was shortly after. There is a tear right here, or actually the corner of the cover missing. And plenty of stress. These comics have been read, certainly. Read and enjoyed. But I can't blame whoever owned them, because I would read them and enjoy them as well. I really like the artwork. I love these covers. Another fantastic cover. And more Hercules. And Fire Lord, who was always a cool character. So, and that's 227. Again, 25 cents. The last is Hela, Goddess of Death. 251, another Kirby cover. Fantastic Kirby cover. Hela, I believe, is going to be in the new Thor movie, for whatever that's worth. But great cover. Kirby and Joe Sinnott. And I believe John Buscema probably did the interiors for these. Let's take a look. I don't think any of these can really, as great of comics as they are, historically, they can't really match the story behind Bill Everett's last work. This, obviously, as you can see, has a little bit of a rolled spine. So it's a little off center in the back. Famous Spalding ads, which were drawn by Jack Davis. Jack Davis, legendary. Every EC artist was legendary, but legendary EC artist who did a lot of horror comics for EC, and then eventually, when EC kind of folded up shop and just became Mad Magazine, they stopped producing comics. Jack Davis became like a stalwart at Mad Magazine for decades. Beautiful artwork. I do believe it's John Buscema. Yes, it is. John Buscema and Tony DeZuniga. Lin Wein is writing, and as you can see, some really fantastic stuff in Asgard. The Warriors 3, Balder the Brave, Fandral, Volstagg. And I don't see any names I recognize on the letters column, but there you go. That's Thor 251. Let's take a look at, let's take a look at 222. See if, I would assume that this also has John Buscema art. John Buscema did very long runs on comics like Conan and Thor. And it is John Buscema and Joe Sinnott. See a little bit, I think a little bit difference when Sinnott is inking over Zuniga. But this is, peak era John Buscema. I mean, he did fantastic work on Thor. Obviously, I think some of his best work ever was on Silver Surfer with Stan Lee. But really fantastic stuff. Beautiful artwork. Just, it's kind of strange. John Buscema, you hear so much about the naturalist like Neil Adams, but John Buscema's anatomy was flawless and so easy. He made it look so easy. I'm sure he could crank out pages rather quickly. Just an absolute workhorse, but vastly more talented, or at least I think a vastly more appealing style than Sal Buscema, his younger brother. But both were incredible workhorses for Marvel. They drew hundreds upon hundreds of comics. And again, nothing that really catches my eye on the letters page, the Hammer Strikes, except you do have a Marvel value stamp here for the Gladiator, I believe is a Daredevil villain, as you can see there. And again, big 2-page splash. I almost missed that. Look at that. Fantastic. Thor's really in the background there. It's really Hercules front and center with this villainous troll or whatever, and capturing the biggest, foreground perspective. Fantastic. As I said, and there's Ares. As I said, peak John Buscema, but I do believe that's a Gil Kane cover. It's definitely a Gil Kane cover. Faces like that, those are absolutely Gil Kane. And the musculature and everything, that's Gil Kane. So, and this is a nice shape. As I said, it has this little spot on it up the top here. You can see that. It's a little bothersome, to say the least. And it's got a little creasing on the back, but still a really nice copy. Gil Kane. Let's look at George Perez's first Fantastic Four art, and then maybe we'll look at this Fantastic Four 142. And that should be it. Already up to almost 30 minutes. I really babble. By the way, if you happen to watch this, episode, and I know very few people are, but maybe eventually a few more people will watch it, please, by all means, tell me, not only comment on the comics, but if I'm babbling too much, rambling too much, you want to just see the covers and hear a lot less of me jabbering on about the artist and looking through the comics, then by all means tell me. Feel free to criticize me. And whether I changed it or not, I'm not sure, but I'd really like to know if this is just boring or, what. Yes, okay, so this is Roy Thomas, George Perez, and Joe Sinnott. And as stated, George Perez's first work on the Fantastic Four is really nice. He was already, I'm sure he was trying hard to impress, and working really hard on this. And he was given Jack Kirby's, sort of the iconic Jack Kirby inker and Joe Sinnott. Really great stuff. Looks great already. I thought it might be a little rougher. Some of his earlier Avengers, which may have preceded this, I thought was a little more, a little rougher around the edges. But I mean, Perez kind of came out fully formed. A sort of amazing, sort of mainstream comics artist who was capable of just juggling so many different characters on the page. That's why he got, like, the Fantastic Four was good for him, but that's only 4 characters. With Avengers, he had, 7 or 8, and plus sometimes a lot more. So he was really perfect for these, and then JLA and all of these crossovers. I mean, they would hand it to George Perez, and he could juggle, covers sometimes with 30, 40 characters on them. It's pretty amazing. And make them all interacting perfectly. New Teen Titans, of course, another one. This artwork is really nice. And, again, nothing really jumps out in the letters page. But, really nice George Perez artwork. If you can get a good look at his Human Torch. Always kind of funny. I guess these are unstable molecules. You can see the shirt sleeves, the paisley shirt. That he's got some control over this. When they realized they could do this, they could flame off his arms so he could catch somebody without incinerating them, and also his shirt sleeves. I mean, that's just a kind of funny drawing. There's another drawing in one of the Marvel Treasury editions, big Treasury edition for Marvel superhero grab bag, I believe, and Johnny's like he's like shirtless, but he's wearing a coat, a winter coat that's kind of unbuttoned, and it's snowing, so it's cold outside, so everybody's sort of wearing snow gear, and Johnny's wearing a winter coat, but underneath the coat he's flame on, and he's got his hand is not flamed on, so he can hold a snowball. It's just really absurd, but kind of funny. And hey, anybody that's taking these comics too seriously, especially as far-fetched as they are, they're far more absurd than that concept of the Human Torch holding a snowball. So anyway, here we go. Let's take a look at this one. Really looking at these because I like looking at them. I buy these comics primarily. I mean, occasionally if something was of any value, then I'd be happy to perhaps sell it if I wasn't totally in love with it. But I'm definitely buying these primarily for my own edification because I like the artwork. I'm hesitating over this Evel Knievel, not only because it's kind of interesting, but I'm sure I've seen it before, but it is pretty bashed up here, back here on this back cover. Couldn't help but feel it. Yeah, it's kind of torn. Okay, there you go. Once I pull it away, there's a hole right there. Yeah, pretty big, pretty significant. This is really heavily inked. That's a heavily inked thing. I mean, really. A lot of black, a lot of dark, shadowing on his stone surface. So I really am not sure who inked this. I don't think it's Joe Sinnott. I like it, but and it's really well drawn. It is Joe Sinnott, and he's listed as the embellisher, and Rich Buckler is the artist. So this is some of Rich Buckler's better work, and Joe Sinnott as the embellisher really embellished. He's really known usually for a very fine line. And interesting, I saw this Johnny Storm cover. I saw it on a cover, this red uniform, which I never remember seeing before. Maybe I did, but maybe I did in one of my old Fantastic Four and just forgot about it. But I've never seen it before, but I really kind of like it. Obviously, where their blue uniforms are all nice as well, but this is the red Human Torch uniform. That's pretty cool, because I wasn't even sure. I assumed it was a red uniform, but I wasn't sure. Maybe they were just insinuating that after he'd flamed off, it was just shaded red or something, but apparently no. He did have a red uniform with a red 4. So that's pretty much there. Surprised that was Rich Buckler. Really nice covers. This is probably, I think we were looking at some comics from this era when we were looking at the 140s, Spider-Man 140s yesterday with the collection, and this is 150, so probably Ross Andru, but I'm just taking a guess. Nice work. Could be. Yes, Ross Andru. Ross Andru and John Romita, so presumably John Romita is inking Ross Andru. Begin a new era of wall crawling. There was one of these issues also, I think I purchased specifically for really interesting reason now. I don't think it was this issue. Some really nice artwork. Let's see. Yeah, and remember, I've always said I love the way Romita, sort of designed Harry Osborn with his hairline. It was always pretty interesting. It was just a unique sort of style, unique sort of look. It's nice when characters are diversified facially. Sal Buscema's, I always kind of joke, had the gaping mouths, and a lot of the characters look pretty much the same. So it's always admirable when a cartoonist can differentiate the characters without just the superficial elements of oh, this guy's got blue hair and this guy's got red hair and this guy's got green hair and this girl's got blonde hair, and but they all basically look the same. No, that's not the case. They've drawn these facial features, different hairstyles, different facial shapes, and that's always impressive. So anyway, what I was just remembering is that one of these issues, and I don't remember which one now, unfortunately, had a first appearance of Wolverine. Now, of course, I think the first appearance of Wolverine proper, which is a very valuable comic, was in the Incredible Hulk number 181, I do believe. But one of these had an advertisement for Wolverine's first appearance, and that technically was his first appearance in the advertisement. And I'm pretty sure I ordered it, maybe paid a little bit extra for it because of that. But I'm not sure which issue it was now. I think I did order that issue though. May have been this one, even though I feel like I would have ordered this no matter what. And this has Ego, the Living Planet. I didn't remember that. Anyway. Anyway. If I relocate it, if I discover which issue it was, maybe I'll mention that and show that advertisement in the video. I assume it's just an advertisement with a shot of Wolverine and that kind of silly yellow costume they had initially. But that is that haul. That little package, I should say. Mostly Bronze Age comics. All of them really nice. Artistically, not so nice in terms of condition. I would say a lot of very goods. This is a fine, and a lot of very goods. Some maybe down to good, and a few fine. But as I said, I think I get these for $30, including shipping, so that's not bad at all. And he really packaged it well, so I should give him compliments for that. And this is the issue that I was speaking of in terms of having an interview with Kane. Absolute classic, sort of Comics Journal interview, very long interview, and this is a great portrait of Gil Kane as done by John Severin in 1995. Gil Kane, of course, passed away by now, and I'm sure John Severin has as well. But there was a lot of fantastic artwork in here. I'm looking forward to rereading this, actually. There's Gil Kane's work on Warlock, and a lot of really fantastic work, including his own Gil Kane Savage. I think he did Starhawks, these were early graphic novels that he did, in which he owned them completely himself. Morbius. And there was an interesting piece here. There were a lot of, this whole interview is fantastic and highly recommended. And I believe you can probably read it online at TCJ's website, but they may charge a subscription fee. Some interviews are free, and then some I think you have to pay to access the archives, which is fair enough. And that's what kind of keeps me holding on to the print issues. Who do you think was the best inker on Kirby? And Gil Kane's answer is, without any exception, I think the best inker on Kirby was Kirby himself, which seems like a perfectly obvious answer in a sense. In the early days, Joe Simon inked him, but you could always tell which pages Jack inked and which pages Joe inked. Joe had an elaborate style. Jack had everything under better control. And most of the Vision stories were pencil and ink by Jack and done in 2 days, and they were just superb. Gary Groth. But of course, he didn't ink any of his work in the 60s. Kane. No, he didn't. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you ever saw any of the penciling, but I have to tell you that when he was at his peak during the 60s and 70s, those pencils were so beautiful and so formidable. You just can't imagine the beauty, the skill of Jack's placements of blacks and shapes and so on, and everything's in pencil. He used a number 2 pencil, so that when you saw Jack at work, at home, at an office, his table was littered with the corpses of number 2-inch pencils. But the page was so expertly and beautifully designed, it was overwhelming, plus the bold shapes. And this powerhouse style, it was primitive and modern. It was irresistible. And it even managed to survive something as neutralizing as Vinnie Coletta's inking. Groth, what do you think of Sanat's inking on Kirby? I thought he did a good job, but it was too slick. It's hard to imagine Jack as having qualities that could be covered up by an inker, but the truth is his pencils were so well designed, so vigorous and daring, that it was hard to get it all. I thought that Mike Royer, who came to Jack late in his career for a time at DC, did very, very flexible and sensitive inks over him. I thought more of Jack's pencils were coming through than what you usually saw. Joe Kubert is a guy who nearly always inks everything he does, so you never see his pencils. When other inkers work over his pencils, the whole job is brought down, and you just say, well, Jesus, this isn't Kubert. That's because Kubert is a good penciler, and he's gotten to be stronger and stronger as a penciler as he's gone on. But he depends entirely on taking the stuff one step further once he applies his inking to it. That's his next logical step. And I'm just adding this. Of course, Joe Kubert has such a very fluid, sort of natural style. I mean, even his inks sort of look like pencils. I mean, it's just a very fluid, not heavily worked over style. Everything just kind of flows. It looks very sort of almost unfinished, but finished and polished at the same time. It's just because he's such a skilled penciler that he can do things more easily than someone who would labor over the pencils. Anyway, that was Gil Kane's thoughts on Jack Kirby and the inkers of Jack Kirby. And I see another quote here. Well, this is kind of interesting. Snow White was one of the pictures that changed my life, so he liked Snow White and Disney. And he had gone on to work in animation, which I think afforded him some income that he was denied for being such a great comics artist for so many years. And then also they've got his cancer years, so apparently he had something akin to leukemia and survived that, but maybe ultimately that shortened his life to some degree, which is pretty disturbing to me. But anyway, so that's a great interview with Gil Kane. There's nice, and that's Gil Kane's self-portrait there. We've got John Severin's portrait of Gil Kane on the cover, which is really detailed, and then that's just a really nice, warm cover of Gil Kane. Of self-portrait of Gil Kane, and one of the great artists ever in comics. And a lot of context, a lot of background on other artists that were influential on him and that he respected. There's some Simon and Kirby stuff. There's some Jack Cole stuff. So anyway, so that's Gil Kane. Thought I would mention that interview because it was kind of on my mind, and Gil Kane did some of these covers. Let's see if I'll pull up a classic cover again that you've already seen, but of course it would be the one at the bottom of the stack, but okay, that's a classic cover by Gil Kane, and of course that is the last work of Bill Everett, who created Submariner. And that is it for this episode of God Loves Comics and yet another comics unboxing. Subsequently, the next episodes, maybe I'll do something a little bit different. Maybe I'll just go into my comics collection and just show off some of those. I've got so many kind of cool comics and interesting things to show, and so we'll brainstorm and think of something. But anyway, that's it for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks very much for watching, and by all means, feel free to comment. Thanks very much. Bye.